Welcome to the deep dive. It's really wonderful to have you with us today. We are setting off on a journey, really, into the very heart of the English language. It's a place where, precision meets artistry. And even for those of us who've spoken it our whole lives, there are always these deeper layers, these subtle nuances, and sometimes surprisingly intricate structures that can challenge anyone. So today our mission is to peel back some of those layers, to move beyond just getting by, and really aim for, well, mastery. As you know, here on the Deep Dive, our core purpose is to be your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. We sift through sources, pull out the key insights, and deliver them to you with clarity. Today, our specific mission is to sharpen your understanding of English mechanics and also idiomatic usage. We want to deliver those really satisfying aha moments, the kind that make everything click into place, helping you navigate and master these crucial elements with more confidence. This deep dive is really tailor-made for you, our listener.
And that's exactly what we aim to do. We're going to meticulously explore some expertly crafted examples. These come from English mastery, sentence structure, and language functions. But this isn't just about memorizing rules or, spotting errors like it's some academic test. No, we're delving deeper. We want to understand the logic, the flow, the kind of architectural principles that make communication clear, impactful, and frankly sophisticated. We'll dissect common pitfalls, highlight the elegance of correct phrasing, and really explain the why behind each choice.
Okay, before we jump into these fascinating examples, I want to take just a moment for something important, something that can really help your English learning journey. If you're finding these insights valuable and you want more ways to continuously enhance your English skills, you absolutely must head over to YouTube. Find and subscribe to the Daily Colloquial English channel. It's a really fantastic resource for ongoing learning, packed with daily tips and lessons. And please, while you're there, share it. Share it with your friends, your colleagues, anyone you know who's learning English. It offers great support, practical lessons, and we really encourage you to check it out. It's a perfect complement to what we're discussing today. So with that essential recommendation shared, here's our roadmap for today's deep dive. First, we'll tackle some challenging sentence structure questions. We're going to dissect each choice, really pull apart the grammar to understand not just what works, but why it works and what difference it makes. Then we'll pivot. We'll move to the wonderfully colorful, sometimes puzzling world of language functions, specifically idioms today.
We'll explore how these unique phrases enrich our everyday conversations, adding layers of meaning. It's going to be a journey from structure to, well, the soul of English.
Indeed. So in this first main section, we're focusing on Part C, sentence structure. We're going to carefully examine 5 specific questions. These really test our understanding of how sentences are put together. Think of these rules not as arbitrary, but as fundamental architectural principles. They give our words strength, precision, the ability to convey meaning exactly as intended, no confusion. For each question, we'll read it aloud along with all the options. Then, we'll meticulously explain the reasoning behind the correct choice, and just as importantly, clarify why the others, well, they don't quite hit the mark. Maybe a grammatical flaw, awkward phrasing. This is about building a solid foundation.
Excellent. Let's start with question 36. This one focuses on mastering relative clauses and verb forms. I'll read the question and all 4 sentence options clearly. Listen closely to how each one connects the different parts. Question 36.
The country which the 2 champions will meet in fighting for the gold medal is located in South Africa.
Option 2. The country which the 2 champions will meet to fight for the gold medal, located in South Africa. Option 3. The country where the 2 champions will meet to fight for the gold medal is located in South Africa. Option 4. The country where the 2 champions will meet in fighting for the gold medal, located in South Africa.
All right, let's unpack these. This question is a great illustration of how subtle choices can really change meaning and correctness. Looking at options 1 and 2 first, the immediate red flag for me is using which to refer to country. Now, which is a relative pronoun, fine, but here, country isn't just a thing. It's specifically a place where an action happens, the champions meeting. When we talk about a location as the setting for an action, we usually need a relative adverb like where. If you can mentally swap in which or at which, then where is almost always the cleaner, more precise choice. So which feels a bit off here. Okay, digging into option 1 a bit more. Even if which was okay, the phrase "and fighting" is a big grammatical problem. It tries to be parallel with meet, but it's incorrect. The champions meet for the purpose of fighting. To express that purpose, we need an infinitive, to fight. And fighting is a gerund or participle, and it just breaks the structure. Sounds awkward. Now, option 2, it does use to fight correctly for purpose. That's better. But it has a more fundamental flaw. After to fight for the gold medal, it just stops with located in South Africa. That phrase, located in South Africa, is a participial phrase. It describes the country, acts like an adjective. But the main subject, the country, needs a complete verb for the main clause. It's missing something like is or will be. The sentence just hangs there, incomplete.
Right, so if I'm following which is an ideal for a location of action, where is better. And we need the infinitive to fight for purpose, not and fighting. Plus, crucially, every main clause needs a complete verb. Okay, that makes sense. What about option 4 then? Does it fix those issues?
Well, option 4 fixes one thing but messes up another. It correctly uses where, which, as we said, is good for location. So it starts stronger than 1 and 2 there. However, it repeats the error from option 1 by using and fighting instead of the needed infinitive to fight, so grammatically clunky again. And critically, just like option 2, it ends with located in South Africa without a main verb. Still missing that is located to complete the main clause. So it suffers from the same fragmentation issue. It's still grammatically unsound, which leads us then to the correct choice. Option 3, here's why it works so well. It shows really good command to sentence structure. The country where precisely uses the relative adverb where, because we're talking about the place, the setting of the meeting, clarifies that spatial relationship perfectly. Then, the 2 champions will meet to fight for the gold medal, employs the infinitive to fight perfectly, clearly expresses the purpose of their meeting, it's the idiomatic and correct way, and finally, Jeng is located in South Africa. This provides the essential main verb is located, completing the sentence's main clause. It clearly states the country's location. The whole sentence is coherent, complete, accurate. No ambiguity. It's just, well, spot on.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that a bit more. This really does highlight how just one word choice like where versus which, or the form of a verb, to fight versus and fighting, can totally change the meaning, or even make a sentence, grammatically incomplete or just awkward sounding. It's not just about rules, it's about clarity.
Exactly. And that's the so what here for you, the listener. This isn't just some minor technical point. Misusing which for where can sound informal or, worse, confusing. Are you describing the country itself or the event happening in it? And more fundamentally, making sure your sentences have a complete main verb that's bedrock stuff. It prevents ambiguity, and maybe most importantly, it lets your audience process information easily without tripping over broken thoughts. Mastering this makes your message flow.
Right. Okay, let's move on to question 37. This one challenges us with comparisons and relative pronouns, another area where small choices make a big difference. I'll read it in the 4 options. Question 37.
Being independent is not the same as cutting off all ties with family and friends and abandoning those whom love you.
Option 2. Being independent is not the same as cutting off all ties with family and friends and abandoning those who love you. Option 3. To be independent is not the same as cutting off all ties with family and friends, abandoning those that love you. Option 4. To be independent is not the same as cutting off all ties with family and friends, abandoning those love you.
Okay, looking at options 1 and 3, there's a big red flag right away. The phrase as same as. That's just not the standard English idiom for comparison. The correct, natural way to say it is the same as su. So options 1 and 3 are immediately flawed because of that common error. Beyond that, option 1 also messes up with whom love you. Remember, whom is an object pronoun. You use it when the pronoun is the object of a verb or preposition, like to whom. But here, the verb love needs a subject, the people doing the loving. So whom is wrong. We need a subject pronoun like who. Now, options 3 and 4, they both start with to be independent. Grammatically, that's okay. An infinitive phrase can be a subject, but being independent, using the gerund phrase, often sounds more natural, more common for expressing a general state or concept like this in English today. It flows a bit better, usually. And option 4 has a really glaring error. Abandoning those love you. It's completely missing a relative pronoun. It needs a who or that to connect those to the verb love. Without it, the phrase just dangles there. Makes no sense.
It's really interesting how a small phrase like as same as just sounds wrong. Even you can't quite put your finger on why immediately. And yeah, that who versus whom distinction is a classic trick up for so many people. Even native speakers sometimes, let's be honest.
Exactly. And understanding that idiom and pronoun usage brings us straight to why. Option 2 is the clear winner here. It just works. Being independent, perfect gerund phrase is the subject. Natural, effective. The comparison is correctly stated is not the same as standard fluent English. And critically, it uses who love you, correctly referring to people as the subject of the verb love. Grammatically sound, clear, plus the parallelism is perfect. Cutting off and abandoning. Smooth, clear, grammatically impeccable. It defines independence nicely, avoiding misinterpretation.
Yeah, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Option 2 just flows so naturally. It hits all those grammatical points we talked about. And it defines independence in a, well, nuanced way. It clarifies what it's not. Very elegant.
And the so what, the takeaway for you, is that clear comparisons are vital. Using as same as is a common mistake that can instantly make your English sound less fluent, less polished. Plus, knowing when to use who versus whom, or maybe that, sometimes ensures your sentences are correct and also clear and respectful when you're talking about people. That's fundamental for good interaction.
Let's move to question 38 now. This one introduces inversion and purpose clauses. Some more advanced stylistic stuff here. I'll read the question and the options. Question 38.
They have rarely gone into debt for buying their holdings, which means that they do not have to sell land or buildings at low prices and ensuring cash flow.
Option 2. They rarely have gone into debt to buy their holdings. That means they do not have to sell land or buildings at low prices, ensuring cash flow. Option 3. Rarely they have gone into debt for buying their holdings, meaning that they do not have to sell land or buildings at low prices to ensure cash flow. Option 4. Rarely have they gone into debt to buy their holdings, which means that they do not have to sell land or buildings at low prices to ensure cash flow.
Right. This one brings in something interesting. Inversion with negative adverbs, it's a bit more sophisticated. When you start a sentence with an adverb like rarely, never, seldom, you often invert the subject and auxiliary verb. It adds emphasis, a bit of formality. Options 1 and 2 miss this completely by not starting with rarely. Even if they weren't aiming for inversion, they have rarely gone. Option 1 is fine, but they rarely have gone. Option 2 is just awkward word order. Doesn't sound quite right. Looking closer to other issues, option 1 uses for buying. Now, for plus gerund can express purpose sometimes, but to plus infinitive to buy is usually clearer, more direct for explaining why an action is done. Option 2 uses that means. It's okay in casual speech, maybe, but which means is generally better, more precise, for introducing a non-restrictive clause that comments on the whole previous idea. Which adds extra info smoothly here. Option 3 tries inversion by starting with rarely, but gets it wrong. Rarely they have gone, nope. For inversion, the auxiliary verb comes before the subject. Should be rarely have they gone. And again, for buying is less precise than to buy for purpose.
Okay. So starting with rarely or similar words triggers that specific flip auxiliary before subject. That's a really good one to remember. Definitely a sign of more advanced English.
Absolutely. And that's why option 4 nails it. It demonstrates excellent command. It uses inversion correctly. Rarely have they gone into debt. Puts have before they, emphatic, formal, correct. Then, to buy their holdings, uses the infinitive of purpose. Most appropriate here to explain why they didn't go into debt, and which means that they do not have to sell land or buildings at low prices to ensure cash flow, which means correctly introduces the consequence. And to ensure cash flow uses the infinitive of purpose, again, keeping it parallel and clear. It's a really well-built sentence.
That is a fantastic example. It shows how sophisticated structure isn't just about rules, it really adds impact. It conveys the information and a certain weightiness. The precision is impressive.
And the so what for you is twofold. Understanding inversion lets you add stylistic flair, emphasis, make your communication more dynamic, more formal when needed. Also, consistently using infinitives of purpose correctly to buy, to ensure, makes your point super clear and concise. You avoid those sometimes clunky gerunds. It just sounds more thoughtful, more precise.
Okay. Next up, question 39. This deals with specifying conditions in reported speech, testing our ability to convey complex conditional stuff accurately. I'll read it and the 4 options. Question 39.
Given that temperatures in the area of the fire are expected to reach anywhere from the upper 80s to just shy of 100, and depending on the smoke cover, said Scott Rowe, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service.
Option 2. That temperatures in the area of the fire were expected to reach anywhere from the upper 80s to just short of 100, and depended on the smoke cover, said Scott Rowe, who was a meteorologist with the National Weather Service.
Oh.
Option 3. Temperatures in the area of the fire expected to reach anywhere from the upper 80s to just short of 100, depending on the smoke cover, said Scott Rowe, who was a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. Option 4. Temperatures in the area of the fire were expected to reach anywhere from the upper 80s to just shy of 100, depending on the smoke cover, said Scott Rowe, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service.
Let's dive into these. There are several subtle but important points here, mainly about verb tenses and conditions. Options 1 and 3 immediately hit a common snag. Temperatures, expected to reach. It's missing the auxiliary verb were. To make the passive voice correct, the temperatures were expected by someone you absolutely need, were expected. Without it, it sounds broken, like a headline. Option 1 also uses given that, which can be a bit clunky just for stating a fact, and depending on feels a little less smooth than a participial phrase might be. Option 2 uses that temperatures were expected, making it a noun clause, but then it follows with said Scott Rowe, as if that whole clause was direct speech, which is just convoluted. Doesn't flow naturally for reported speech. Also, option 2 uses depended on past tense. That suggests a completed action. But the context implies an ongoing condition affecting the temperature. So a participial phrase like depending on is much better for describing that current dynamic relationship.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing how a tiny word like were can completely change whether the sentence is grammatically sound or not. And that difference between depended on and depending on that seems really key for showing if something is finished or still happening. Getting the timing right.
It really is. And this is why option 4 absolutely nails it. Perfect grammar, natural phrasing, temperatures in the area of the fire were expected to reach. Correct passive voice. Describes the expectation accurately. Anywhere from the upper 80s to just shy of 100. Uses the great idiomatic phrase, just shy of, meaning slightly less than, natural, precise, depending on the smoke cover. Uses a participial phrase expertly. Clearly describes the ongoing condition affecting the temperature. Elegant, efficient. And finally, the attribution. Said Scott Rowe, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. Clean, direct, concise. Avoids unnecessary fluff like who is a meteorologist. It's just efficient, clear communication.
That really shows how to convey complex info, like a weather forecast with variables, clearly, concisely, and, grammatically perfectly. A real masterclass in precision for dynamic situations.
And that's the takeaway for you. Precise reporting, especially in fields like science or news, relies heavily on accurate verb tenses and phrasing conditions correctly. Knowing when to use a smooth participial phrase like depending on instead of a heavier clause streamlines your message, makes it sound more professional, and helps your audience grasp complex details easily. Maximize clarity, maximize impact.
All right, on to our last sentence structure question. Question 40. This one tests modal verbs, conjunctions, word order, all those little pieces. I'll read it and the options. Question 40.
Jane's frantic and weird behavior ought to not take you by surprise, particularly because she has recently lost her other significant on account of a horrible accident, leaving its mark on her personal and professional life.
Option 2. Jane's frantic and weird behavior ought not have taken you by surprise. Particularly, she has lost recently her other significant as a result of a horrible accident, leaving its mark on her personal and professional life. Option 3. Jane's frantic and weird behavior ought not to have taken you by surprise, particularly as she has recently lost her significant other as a result of a horrible accident that has left its mark on her personal and professional life. Option 4. Jane's frantic and weird behavior ought not take you by surprise, particularly since she has lost recently her significant other on account of a horrible accident that has left its mark on her personal and professional life.
Okay, this one challenges our understanding of modals, specifically ought to, and also subtle phrasing and word order, real signs of advanced English. Let's look at option 1, ought to not take. That's an awkward, generally incorrect way to negate ought to. The standard correct form is usually ought not to. Splitting the infinitive like that to not take is often frowned upon, sounds clunky. Option 2 uses ought not have taken. For a past event expressing something that should not have happened but did, the correct form is ought not to have taken. Needs that too. Without it, it feels incomplete. Also, she has lost recently, awkward word order. Adverbs like recently usually go between the auxiliary has and the main verb lost, so has recently lost sounds much more natural. Option 4 uses ought not take. Again, incomplete for a past obligation or expectation. It's missing the to have needed for the past tense, and it repeats the awkward lost recently. Oh, and another common error in options 1 and 2, her other significant. The established idiom is significant other, meaning a partner. Other significant sounds incomplete, jarring. It's a set phrase.
Right, so the modal ought has these very specific rules for negation and past tense. Getting those right is a real mark of fluency. And yeah, that adverb placement, like with recently, seems minor, but really affects how natural it sounds.
Precisely. And this leads us straight to why option 3 is flawless. It weaves these elements together beautifully. Jane's frantic and weird behavior ought not to have taken you by surprise. Correct modal use, negative past perfect. Means it shouldn't have happened. Perfect for expressing that kind of judgment or expectation about the past, particularly as she has recently lost her significant other. Uses particularly as, naturally to introduce the reason. Recently lost her significant other, perfect word order, correct idiom. As a result of a horrible accident that has left its mark on her personal and professional life. The phrase that has left its mark clearly explains the lasting impact. The whole sentence flows, tells a poignant story, and is grammatically spot on.
That is a beautiful example. It shows how to express that feeling of, regret or an unfilled expectation about the past with precision, but also empathy. It feels very human, but grammatically perfect.
And the so what here is huge. Mastering modals like ought to is crucial for expressing nuance, obligation, advice, expectation, especially about the past. It lets you convey complex ideas subtly. And using natural phrasing, significant other, correct adverb placement makes your communication sound much more fluent, professional, polished. These aren't just tiny details. They're markers of advanced proficiency. They make you stand out. Okay, now we shift gears. We're moving into Part D language functions. And for this deep dive, that means exploring idioms. Idioms are, well, they're the spices of English, aren't they? They add flavor, depth, local color, but they're tricky because the meaning isn't obvious from the words themselves. You have to know them. Understanding idioms helps you understand native speakers, obviously, but also helps you sound much more natural, more expressive yourself. It's where English really comes alive.
Right, and for this section, as we planned, I'm going to read the entire first dialogue, including the blanks, first. This way you get the full context before we look at the specific idioms. Listen carefully for those context clues. Dialogue 1. The gossip and the unspoken truth.
Hey, Joe. Do you know who about Vicky's surprise retirement party?
B. Well, I'm not sure, but if I had to guess, I think it would be Harry. A. So do I. The guy's so talkative. 42 in his mouth. B. I think we must talk to him. After all, it's not his first time, and someone has to address the... All right, let's take these one by one. Starting with question 41, filling that first blank about revealing the party secret. The options are 1. Rang a bell. 2. Poured the water. 3. Spilled the beans. 4. Cleaned the clock.
Okay, the context is clearly about a surprise party, and speaker A is worried someone let the secret out. The idiom spilled the beans, which is option 3, perfectly captures this. It means to reveal a secret, often accidentally or carelessly. Let's look at the others. Rang a bell means something sounds familiar, doesn't fit. Poured the water isn't really a standard idiom here. And clean the clock means to defeat someone badly, totally irrelevant. So spilt the beans is the only one that means revealing secret information. It's the perfect idiomatic fit.
So what does this mean for mastering English? It's about knowing those specific phrases, isn't it? Like, spill the beans means let out the secret. You can't guess it from the words. That's the challenge and the fun of idioms.
Exactly. And the practical point is, without knowing spill the beans, you'd struggle to understand that conversation. Knowing it unlocks understanding about secrets, gossip, premature announcements. It's super common, makes you sound more natural, and helps you follow conversations better.
Now for question 42. Speaker A describes Harry as so talkative. The options for the blank are 1. Food wouldn't stay. 2. Snow wouldn't thaw. 3. Tongue wouldn't turn. 4. Butter wouldn't melt.
Right. Speaker A says Harry's so talkative, implying he can't keep the secret. The idiom butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. Option 4 is wonderfully ironic. It describes someone who looks innocent, sweet, maybe even a bit too virtuous, but the implication is often that it's just an act. They're actually sly, cunning, or in this context, just so chatty they can't keep quiet. It highlights that contradiction. The other options aren't standard idioms for this. Snow wouldn't thaw, might suggest coldness, maybe, but not talkativeness. The others don't fit at all.
That's a brilliant one. Butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. It paints such a vivid picture, that contrast between how someone looks and how they are. Great verbal irony for someone who talks too much or pretends to be innocent.
Indeed. And the takeaway here is that idioms like this convey tone and attitude, not just meaning. Understanding butter wouldn't melt helps you grasp that subtle, often sarcastic commentary. Using it, or just recognizing it, shows a deeper understanding of English culture and nuance. You can appreciate the humor and subtext much better.
And for question 43, Speaker B says, someone needs to address the blank in the room. The options: 1. Elephant. 2. Person. 3. Ball. 4. Problem.
Okay, Speaker B notes it's not his first time, suggesting a recurring, obvious, uncomfortable issue that people are avoiding. The idiom, the elephant in the room, option 1, refers exactly to that. A big, obvious problem or controversial issue that everyone knows is there, but nobody wants to discuss. It's too big to ignore, but too awkward to mention. The other options don't work. Person in the room, bull in the room, not idioms. Problem in the room is literal, maybe, but lacks the idiomatic force and shared cultural understanding of the elephant in the room. That phrase has real weight.
Ah, the elephant in the room. We've all been there, haven't we? in meetings, family gatherings. That phrase just perfectly captures that awkwardness when something huge is unsaid.
Exactly. And the value of knowing the elephant in the room is its usefulness for pointing out that unspoken tension. It lets you signal that an issue needs confronting, but maybe less aggressively than just stating the problem directly. It's a tool for navigating social situations, for giving a name to that uncomfortable silence. Without it, you might struggle to express that shared feeling effectively.
Okay, great. Let's hear the second short dialogue now. This one focuses on friends making up. On reconciliation, I'll read it in full, including the blanks. Dialogue 2, reconciliation and friendship.
I'm so glad that Dave and Mike have decided to forget about the past and
B, same here. They were such good friends before that meaningless argument.
Lovely.
That's right. I remember that they used to be thick as 45 in the old days. Right. Let's look at question 44 first. It's about Dave and Mike resolving their issues. The options are 1, throw down the gauntlet. 2, bury the hatchet. 3, line their pockets. 4, make ends meet.
The context is clear. Forget about the past and a meaningless argument. They're making peace. The idiom, bury the hatchet, option 2, means exactly that, to make peace and to quarrel, reconcile. The image is of putting away a weapon. Let's check the others. Throw down the gauntlet means issue a challenge, the opposite. Line their pockets means make money, often dishonestly irrelevant. Make ends meet means just earn enough to live, also unrelated. So only bury the hatchet fits the idea of reconciliation.
That's a really positive outcome, and bury the hatchet captures it perfectly. That image of putting differences aside for good.
The so what here is that bury the hatchet is essential for talking about relationships and resolving conflict. It's a concise, understood way to discuss forgiveness and reconciliation. Knowing and using it helps you talk about healing old wounds, moving past disagreements more effectively.
And finally, question 45. Speaker A remembers how close Dave and Mike used to be. The options for the blank are 1 thieves, 2 grease, 3 soup, 4 thorns.
Okay, Speaker A is reminiscing about them being such good friends, their strong bond in the old days. The idiom thick as thieves, option 1, describes people who are extremely close friends. They share secrets, have a very strong bond, maybe collaborate closely. Now, the word thieves might sound negative, but in the idiom it just emphasizes extreme closeness, not necessarily anything criminal. It implies a strong alliance, almost inseparable. The other words, grease, soup, thorns, don't form any recognized idiom meaning close friendship. Thick as thieves is the one.
That's a great one. Thick as thieves. It has that slightly mischievous feel, even for just good friends who share everything. Adds a bit of character to their bond.
Absolutely. And the value for you is that thick as thieves lets you describe a really deep friendship with a bit of personality. It conveys more intimacy than just good friends, shared secrets, maybe mutual understanding. Using idioms like this makes your language more colorful, your descriptions more vivid.
Wow, what an enlightening deep dive this has been. We've really journeyed from the architectural precision of sentence structure, unpacking why specific choices of pronouns, verbs, modals work best, all the way to the vibrant, sometimes surprising world of English idioms. It shows English has both exactness and this wonderful expressive flourish.
And through this, you've equipped yourself with some critical insights into both the mechanics and, well, the artistry of English. Understanding these nuances isn't just about avoiding errors, right? It's about expressing your ideas confidently, understanding others more deeply, and adding richness to your own communication. Every correct choice we looked at today points towards greater clarity, greater impact, whether you're writing formally or just chatting.
So what does this all mean for your continued learning journey? And maybe for language itself? We've seen today how crucial intention and precision are in shaping language, letting us convey exactly what we mean. But with digital communication booming, where brevity often seems to win over grammatical formality, how do you think our relationship with complex sentences and colorful idioms will evolve? Will these deep dives into mastery become even more important for standing out, for articulating ideas with depth? Or will language keep simplifying, maybe losing some of its expressive power, its rich idioms along the way? Something to mull over as you continue your own deep dive into the world around you.